Hey guys, it's Mrs. Balot. We're getting ready to start chapter 9. Remember, if I'm going faster than normal because I'm not pausing for you to write down your slides information, remember you can pause the video and take your notes, use the PowerPoints that are on the website, whatever you need to do. So today we're starting chapter 9. Like I said, we have 3 objectives for the day. They are to, first of all, identify the ABCs of good body mechanics and describe what ABCs of good body mechanics means. You need to know what the mnemonic A, safe, lift means. And you need to identify fall risks that healthcare workers face. Okay, so first of all, as healthcare workers, we put a lot of physical stress on our bodies from the lifting and the moving and the pushing and the pulling and the scooping and the bending and the moving that we do. And so we are putting our bodies at risk or at a potential to be injured. So we need to have some kind of rules that when we're moving and we're bending and we're lifting and we're doing all that stuff, that we're following some things that we try to, as much as possible, not injure ourselves. And those things are called the ABCs of good body mechanics. And each one of those letters stands for something. The A stands for alignment. The B is for balance. And the C is for coordinated movement. So we're going to look at each one of those individually. The first is alignment. That is just a word that simply means that you're going to maintain good posture when you're moving people, when you're lifting, and so forth. The term body mechanics is a term that we use for the safe and efficient use of our bodies. And so when we are keeping our joints in alignment and keeping in good posture, keeping our spine in a straight position and things like that, we are making it so that our joints are not as stressed and not being pulled and tugged on. So it's important to kind of keep that neutral position as a way to just not injure ourselves. The B, as I said, stands for balance. And so there's a few things that we can do when we are moving and we're lifting and that kind of thing to make sure that we maintain a good balance. So first of all, when we are picking something up or putting something down, we need to have a good base of support. Kind of a good measure is usually that your feet should be about shoulder width apart. The other thing that we can do is help maintain your center of gravity, and there's a couple ways to do that. Keeping things close to you, bending at your knees and your hips, not at your back, like you don't want to bend over. You want to keep your body in alignment, so you want to keep your back in alignment and bend at your knees while keeping your back straight. The C in ABCs of good body mechanics stands for coordinated body movement. So that involves using the weight of your body to help move whatever it is you're moving, if at all possible. So some examples, like when you're moving somebody up in bed, what you want to do is stand facing the bed with your feet apart. Again, that's the balance part. And instead of moving against the movement, you want to step with the movement, so that if I'm moving my patient this way, I want to step this way. I don't want to step forward or backward or in the opposite direction. I want to move with the person. And transfer your weight as you go, so that I might start with my weight on this foot, but then transfer my weight this way as I move my patient that way. If it's possible, you can use your weight to push or pull an object as opposed to trying to lift it. Sometimes that is a little better on your back. When you do have to lift something or someone, couple things to keep in mind is bend at your knees again. Hold the person close to you. Sometimes you have to get up close and personal with your patients. Use those muscles in your thighs and your hips, bending at your knees. You need to actually use all the muscles in your thighs, your hips, your butt, your back and your belly in order to lift properly. It's important that you lift properly because you don't want to injure your back. The next slide kind of gives you an idea of what lifting properly looks like. Like, you want to plan your lift. You want to ask for help. If it's too heavy, get a hand. Don't try to be the person that thinks that they can do it all, because if you try to lift something too heavy, you can get hurt. Make sure you have that wide base of your support, bend at your knees, tighten your stomach muscles, lift with your legs, keep the load close, so the patient or whatever it is that you're lifting, you need to keep it close to you, and keep your back straight. Now, when I was working at one of the hospitals I worked with, they had a mnemonic that they used to demonstrate what good body mechanics meant. And that mnemonic was A, safe lift. And each one of those letters stands for something. This is not in your PowerPoint, so you will probably need to write this down. You do need to know it for your test. The A stands for always communicate. So that means when I'm lifting a patient, I need to talk to them. If I'm working with somebody, I need to tell them, okay, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then do the movement. The S in safe stands for stagger your feet. So not necessarily putting your feet side by side, staggering them a little bit. The A is abdominal squeeze. That just kind of helps keep your body in proper alignment. If you squeeze your belly muscles in, keeps your back straighter a little bit, and will help prevent your back from becoming injured. The F, flex your knees, not your back. So again, bend at your knees. A lot of these things we've heard a couple times already, so obviously they're important. So keep those kinds of things in mind when you're lifting. E, easy movements, no jerking. So you don't want to all of a sudden jerk a patient up, because not only could that hurt the patient, it could hurt you. So easy movements, you don't want to jerk and move abruptly, like smooth kind of movements. The lift, the L stands for lock the lumbar spine. That's part of that alignment where you keep your joints in alignment by locking your lumbar, your lower back in place in kind of a straight position. You're going to keep your body in proper alignment. The I is imagine the move. Don't get into lifting a patient without knowing where to go. Know where you're going before you pick something up or someone up. The best example I can give with this is we did a disaster drill one time with the fire company, and they had to evacuate us from a bus. And they came in to evacuate a patient. They got the patient up in the air, which was one of my students, and then they were turning in circles because they could not figure out how to get her off the bus. So that should have been done prior to them lifting her, so they knew where they were going. Everybody was on the same page, and when they could get her off, not picking her up and then trying to communicate or trying to figure out where to go. That should have been all done prior. And in fact, one of the EMS workers did get hurt. They sprained their knee because of the twisting and the movement, because they didn't do a safe lift. F, and this F means to face the load. So you should always face what you're lifting and holding it close. Again, that's something we've heard multiple times again. So just keep that in mind. And last but not least, toes should follow your nose. So if I'm turning to the left, my toes need to turn to the left. If I'm turning to the right, my toes turn to the right. They don't stay in the position and cause me to twist, because if you do that, then you end up pulling at your back or your side, and you can pull a muscle or injure yourself. So toes should always follow your nose. Now, there's a lot of things that put healthcare workers at risk for injuries, or specifically back injuries, as you're working. One of the things is that you get put at risk for falling, and you don't think of yourself as at risk for falling, but there's a lot of reasons you could. First of all, when you're working, you're doing so many things all at once. You're rushing around. It's easy to not see something and trip over it or something like that. Having to deal with emergency situations where you have to run to get something and you might slip, fall, that kind of thing. Wet floors that are not marked properly can lead to someone falling. It's very important that in a healthcare setting, as the housekeepers are going through and mopping, that they put those wet floor signs up so that people see them so they don't fall. If you're helping somebody that's weak, not cooperative, can't do a lot by themselves, and they put their weight on you or something like that, and you're trying to do that by yourself without help when you need it, it can put you at risk for falling. And last but not least, you trying to catch somebody who is falling and keep them from falling can put you at risk, because they could knock you down, or you, in the process of trying to catch them, could end up falling. So those are your risks as a healthcare worker that you face for falling. So believe it or not, that is all that we have for today. We covered, the proper way to lift. We covered up what body mechanics is, the ABCs of body mechanics, and we know what a safe lift is. So tomorrow we'll move on to the second part of Chapter 9. And if you have any questions, shoot me an email and I'll get back to you. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow.